So I went to Walgreens yesterday and I was looking through the aisles and they already have the Halloween stuff out. I mean, it's not even, the summer's not even over yet and they already have the Halloween stuff out. I mean, these people can't wait. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, George Lombard Jr. has stormed on the scene and has been just as good or even better as advertising. I'm going to say it right now on this episode. I think he's a keeper, and I'll give you my reasons why. I know it's only been a few games there, but there's little intangibles and things I noticed there where they had, this guy's just probably one of those real can't-miss prospects. We've heard a lot of guys before, Ricky Lede, Volpe, Dominguez, but this guy seems really solid there, and again, I'll explain the whole thing. But of course, Yankees also getting some good news that Aaron Judge was cleared for some light lower body workouts, so him and Stan could jog very gingerly out there in the outfield there, so we'll give you an update on that. As well as Carlos Rodon takes one more step for joining this rotation. Had a rehab start, I'll give you the numbers in case you can check it out there. And the Yankees kind of swung and missed. A lot of these fans say at the trade deadline, not securing one of the positions they were was of course catcher, at least a backup catcher. Well, the Yankees correct that position, making a minor league move for Mitch Garver. I know you're super excited about to hear about Mitch, so we'll give you the background on him. And if we have, you better heard some rumors out there that some baseball players think that Babe Ruth didn't exist and he's a myth. And well, I mean, have you seen a ton of footage of him? No. Have you seen him on TikTok? No. So maybe he doesn't exist. The whole thing's kind of crazy and silly, but of course, we'll have a little fun. We'll address the whole thing there. So we'll have a little seriousness with George Lombard Jr., a little work with Carlos Rodon and Judge coming back into the field, hopefully. And of course, we'll discuss the Babe Ruth. Does he exist or does not exist? If Babe Ruth is in the woods, can you hear him there? So got a little stuff for you, but before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show, Section 420, Talkin Yankees, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Of course, you could have got my take on George Lombard Jr. right away. You didn't have to wait a whole week there, so make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast. If you happen to be watching right now, whether on TV, on YouTube, go to the YouTube channel, type in Section 420 Talkin Yankees. You'll see bing, boom, subscribe to the channel, get notified when new episodes come up there. It's not a myth. So, of course, the trade deadline, again, we discussed it here on the last episode, at least here on YouTube. Yankees maybe not addressing specific needs they need, but they did address one thing that they needed offense, of course, making the move for Luis Garcia Jr., as well as Elliot Ramos. But again, fans were really happy there because they wanted some bullpen arms. They wanted perhaps a move at the middle infield position, mainly shortstop, and perhaps something to do with either a starting or backup catcher. And really, Cashman didn't do any of those things. Just added some bats there. But really, the big move the AC had is up the sleeve, which I didn't expect to happen, was afterwards, shortly after the trade deadline, calling up George Lombard Jr. Now, look, you know what these prospects, something like him, I mean, yeah, he's in AAA, but he's also 21 years old. We didn't know what to expect from these guys. And I even gave you his numbers from last year when he was in AA. I mean, it was kind of putrid, at least in batting average-wise. I mean, it seemed like, yes, he had pop, he had the power. Scouting report on him has, he always had the good defense, great defense, and even spring training had some strong throws from third base, even wowed the likes of Judge there. So you figured defense would be fine there, but, offensively, how would he be when he come up here? And, we've been through the gambit already. Of course, we've seen Volpe, the decline of him over the past 3 years there, when there's the reason why Volpe was sent down ultimately. Also, we've seen Jason Dominguez, 2023 comes on the scene, great, hits like 4 home runs in 8 games, and then, dealing with some injuries himself, the Tommy John surgery coming back in. Never quite the same player, not complete garbage, but it's not what we thought he was going to be. And of course, this season with Spencer Jones, we've been hearing about Spencer Jones the past couple of years. He's the, left-handed Aaron Judge, 6'7", the whole thing there. Yeah, he hits home runs all over the place, but when he comes up here, strikes out all the time. Yes, he runs into a few home runs, but again, now getting the third opportunity, at least with the major league team, just with all the injuries the Yankees had, mainly to Judge, Stanton, and Cody Bellinger. So I say at least this third set of Spencer Jones, he's been looking a little bit better. He's seen more parts of his game than just hitting, 450-foot home runs there. But still, with these prospects, you don't know. So that's why I wasn't really initially in favor of bringing George Lombard Jr. up here. I didn't want someone coming up here. He was hitting like 268 in AAA, which means, all right, well, if you're hitting 268 in AAA, what's going to happen up here when you come up to the major leagues and face major league pitching with scouts and people that analyze everything, and what's going to happen is so you figure a 268 batting average in AAA up here is probably going to translate to like 215, and then, well, if he's hitting no better than Anthony Volpe, why make the move? So that would be one argument for me. And then you bring him up here and maybe he struggles, and then you have to send him down. It becomes a head case. And, the Yankees over the years had guys up and down like that, like Clint Frazier. They bring him up, send him down. Oswaldo Peraza, send them up, bring them up, down. Andujar, up and down, these guys. And, it just seemed like they probably ruined a lot of these guys, messed with their heads up with all the up and down there. I didn't want George Lombard Jr. to be, another victim of that. But I guess the Yankees had faith in him. And, one of the reason that Cashman did hold on him at the trade deadline. I mean, it seemed like, everybody who, the Yankees were going after, they wanted George Lombard Jr. and Cashman was holding tight with him. So, gave the indication that they're very high on the guy, and you can kind of see why. Eventually make a move to call him up, and hey, I'll admit, I'll say I was wrong there, because it's only been a handful of games, only been a week there, so normally you wouldn't be crazy over a prospect a week, but you can just see physically how he's just different and better than just like someone like Anthony Volpe, for example, where you can just really be confident that, I think this guy is an actual, as I would say, a keeper. Nonetheless, and not just the fact that he hit a home run in his first game, but right off the bat, you saw a great defensive play in the shortstop hole in that first game, second in there, going on to his right to body just to get to the ball, which is hard enough there, and off balance throwing a strike to Jazz at second base. Jazz able to turn, of course, throw the ball to first base for an amazing double play there, and that's only in the second inning there. So forget about just the hitting for a moment, just the athletic ability there, the strong throw, the range to get to that ball there, and we've seen already in the handful of games up here, just his defense has been absolutely spectacular. Where Volpe, I know he won a Gold Glove as a rookie a couple of years ago there, but you weren't wowed by Volpe's defense. I mean, yeah, he won the Gold Glove, but you're going to see the difference between Lombard and Volpe, at least defensively there. It's like night and day, and you can see this guy is a real top prospect. Again, the strong throwing arm, the range, he gets everywhere, and Volpe, it's like, all right, this guy's good, but he's going to be good. That's why I feel like the Yankees kept giving him some more chances there, because he never really excelled. He never really took off where, and you're like, okay, good. Now we feel good about the decision. They just kept giving Volpe that rope, give him a little bit more rope, give him more time. Maybe he's going to turn something, make the turn. Never really fermented the way it happened. Lombard did that like in game one, the first game that you just saw, wow, this is something different. This is something, this is something unique. Now, could he fall off the cliff? Could he falter? Possibly. Remember the Yankees had Gleyber Torres come up 2018, 2019. He looked fabulous. He was an all-star. And then he seemingly he hit a wall and just dropped off there in all different ways. But I think it was a different case there. I think it had a little bit to do with the Yankees maybe change his position around from second baseman to shortstop, back to second baseman there. Maybe that might have something to do with it. You just don't feel that's going to happen with Lombard. It just helps that, of course, his father, former Major League player as well, a current coach with the Detroit Tigers, George Lombard Sr. there. And I think this raised him well. And probably Lombard to him, even though he's 21 years old, this is all old hat to him, because he's been around the majors his whole life since he's a kid there. And so I just think he's better mentally equipped to handle this whole thing. And maybe that's why Cashman felt no problem to bring him up there. So you see that, you see the strong growth, and just the small intangibles. I mean, you look at the Sunday game against the Braves there, he challenges two pitches there. I mean, he's in the box. This guy's a rookie. He challenges two pitches that were called strikes. They get overturned as balls. I mean, how many 21 years old are just going to have that eye and that confidence to do that? And you haven't really seen him swinging out of his shoes that much like that. Even, when Judge came back, when Judge came initially up in 2016, yeah, he also hit a home run in his first game. But, after that, it was like strikeout galore there. I mean, swinging outside the zone. It took Judge almost a long time to get that plate discipline that he has now there. But, the Seattle, Lombard kind of has that discipline already there. You don't see him swinging out of his shoes. Even in some of these extra inning games the Yankees have been playing lately, been very poised at the plate. And you just look at his couple plays, and I'll just pinpoint a few ones. You look at the Friday game against the Braves. That's the one the Yankees came back 2-0. I mean, Lombard started that whole thing. In the ninth inning, he hits a little bit dribble it down to third base, uses the speed to run there, and of course a bad throw gets him to third base, puts himself in scoring position. He would ultimately score to cut it to 2-1. Again, that's a game the Yankees would eventually tie 2-2 in the ninth inning, and they're going to win in the 10th. But that was all started by George Lombard. And even in that same game, you go in the 10th inning there with Bednar up, with the Braves have a ghost run on second base. A ball hit to Lombard in the shortstop hole there, and many shortstops won't even be able to get to that ball. He gets to it on his right there, kind of the same way he did in his first game there, and throws a strong throw. Not only that, when he got to the ball, he kept that runner frozen there at second base, so the ghost runner couldn't advance, gets that first out at first base. So now you're dealing with one out, whereas let's just say you had Volpe in there. Probably Volpe doesn't get to that ball. If he does, maybe he just uncorks a crazy throw into the crowd. Now you're looking at first and third, nobody out. Braves definitely would score that run there, probably take the lead, and probably win the game in extra innings. But just because he had Lombard's defense out there, he prevented that runner and kept that runner at second base at that moment there. Again, preserved the 2-2 tie, and again, the Yankees would end up winning in the bottom of that inning there with the McMahon sacrifice fly. So So just a little intelligible like that. Even if he doesn't do anything stupendous like a grand slam like that, just doing little things like that to win games. So you can see this guy's just different there. So that's why I feel comfortable the whole way. You see the defense, you see offense, maybe batting average he's going to struggle there, but he's already got 2 home runs. He's only been up here for a cup of coffee. He's already got 2 home runs on him there. So you can see this guy is the real deal. I feel like this is going to be a long-term solution type of guy there. And someone like, and you just see all parts of his game. Like now when Dominguez first came up here, yes, he had the power right away and you got excited there, but we didn't see much greatness in terms of the defense. We know he has a strong throw, but we never seen like a total full package of Jason Dominguez. Same with Volpe. We see Volpe here, have a little pop in his bat, okay, but never really great average there, and like okay defense. But of course, lately his defense is, really took a slide along with the offense, and that's kind of one of the other reasons why he was sent down to AAA. You just don't see that out of Lombard. He just looks like a polished piece there. Again, even though he's 21 years old, he seems like he's been in the league for 10 years there. You see the range, the whole thing there. So I feel confident saying that, yeah, I think this guy is going to be here for a long time. And of course, that's good news for the Yankees. Obviously, he's under control for a long time. Contractually, so you don't have to worry about the whole thing. And ironically, taking number 96, and not sure if he's going to change that number. I like the idea just because of the fact that obviously he's playing shortstop. Obviously it's Jeter's old position, and when Jeter came up a rookie in '96, there the Yankees won their first championship. Not going to say that's going to happen this season, but I just like the omen of the 96 number there. And of course, we know these Yankee numbers are crazy now. It started with Judge in '99, and we have the whole Clint Frazier with 77 there. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think you should stick with the 96. That should be his number moving forward there. And it's just a shame that, he's kind of, the way things are right now, he's kind of have to be dependent on for the offense because the rest of the offense isn't doing so great right now, and he's still waiting for some pieces to come back, like Judge and Stanton and Bellinger. We'll get into that a little bit later there. But for Lombard Jr., I got to say, good move by Cashman to hold on to him. I'm sure there's a lot of tempting trades out there to, try to get a Rauschman type or try to get, maybe Mason Miller from the Padres, even though I don't think Mason Miller is going to be, available anymore because the Padres have been surging a little bit, so maybe they want to go for those wild card spots there. But so I don't know what deals with possibly, but it seemed like it was hands off on Judge Lombard Jr. and you can kind of understand why there. Now the Yankees have had some other guys like this. They say he can't miss and they've hold on and they turn out to be nothing. That happens here, but Lombard, you can just see this guy's a little different. Again, this everything as I mentioned before, the intangibles, the baseball smarts, the range, the strong throwing arm. He's already got pop in the power there. Hitting-wise, average-wise, we'll know where he's going to stand there. But you can see this is a real Major League Baseball player. This is not going to be a guy we're waiting on. And, and this is the son of a Major League Baseball player. I don't see him going through some mental lapses or some big declines there. I just see like this guy's, as I said before, is a keeper. As for our friend Volpe, he's of course in AAA now. The plan for him is actually play a little bit of second base. They want to groom him to be a second baseman, which I think is a good idea to kind of give the Yankees an option. Obviously, obviously you say Jazz is the better player, and I don't think like Volpe will like tear it up down there and come in and take Jazz's job, anything like that there. But at least it gives the Yankees some options because you also have to look to 2027 because Jazz will be a free agent at the end of the season. I don't think the Yankees are going to re-sign him there, so you would have to fill that second base hole. Now, of course, Volpe's been struggling, of course, up here on the Major League level, so are you looking forward for that to be a second baseman in the future? Probably not there, but again, at least you get him to take some balls in, at least get him groomed to play some full-time second base. Just give the Yankees an option. Right now, obviously, they have Jazz and Cabrera could do that job if need be. Technically, Garcia Jr. can if he wanted to, but I just don't think they use him. I think they restrict them just to be a first baseman DH, and that's kind of been the plan for him. But at least gives Volpe, an option there. So, he's getting, possibly another chance if he does really well down there. He makes a case for himself. They could bring him up later on. Of course, as long as he's on the roster before September there, he could be an option afterwards. If they even go to the postseason, want to consider put him on the postseason roster. I don't think it would happen there, but at least, this will be Volpe's ninth chance. Well, with even the additions of Garcia and Elliot Ramos, of course, the injection of Judge Lombard Jr., you would think the offense would take off a little bit. No, but it's still been pulling teeth. But finally, the Yankees getting a little bit of good news, and that's, of course, with Aaron Judge, who was dealing with the little fracture in his rib there, and the guy that prevents him from taking swings at the bat. Well, he's been cleared for some light workouts, and these are going to be lower body workouts there. So not going to be swinging the bat yet, and that's going to be, quite a while there. So really doesn't, I'm not sure in terms of a timetable, but at least you can see a positive news that he could do some baseball activities there. But you're not really wowed by that because it doesn't seem like it's still going to be anytime soon. I mean, really, the whole idea of Aaron Judge is that he's got to be able to swing the bat and got to be able to swing the bat pain-free. Obviously, we want a 100% Aaron Judge, not like a 75% Aaron Judge. Now, 75 Aaron Judge might be better than nothing, and maybe that's what we end up getting there at some point there. But at least now he's at least starting to work there until they feel he can finally swing a bat. But at that point, then you're probably looking at, I don't know if he's going to be come back. You got a couple weeks left in August there, but you still probably look at him, sometime in September. Now, Judge still repeats himself in saying that he doesn't see a reason why he shouldn't come back this season. So he seemed determined to come back this season. But again, we still don't have a timetable there. And again, this Yankee offense has kind of been teetering now. Luckily for the Yankees, they've been winning with their really top-notch pitching there. That's what we've been saving their bacon right now there. But you still need more out of this offense. And there's guys that have been dropping out a lot, in and out there. Something like Jazz will be hot for a couple games, then he goes cold. And we know the story with some of the rest of these guys there. The only guy who has been actually hitting rather well, and that is, of course, Austin Wells. He's been pretty much terrible for the entire season. But if you want to just give him his due there, we owe Wells one of them there. If you look since July 30th, he has been 7 for 19, so it's a 368 batting average. 3 doubles, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, and 2 walks there. So, the past couple of weeks for Austin Wells, who's been, again, absolutely horrible, at least hitting-wise there up to this point there. Has actually probably been one of the Yankees' better hitter, surprisingly, amongst all the additions they had lately. But still, even with all that being said there, you guys see this Yankee offense desperately need Aaron Judge back just to make a world of difference. And some other guys, we still don't have timetables in the well, such as Cody Bellinger. We don't exactly know when he's going to be back. I would assume he'll be back before Stan and Judge there, but again, we're not 100% yet there, as he deals with his sort of hamstring issue. And of course, Stanton, that's just one of the mysteries of mysteries, but we never know he's gonna come back. And again, the best he could do is just some light running there. So this Yankee offense, you're not gonna get much. And you've been hearing some of the talk around there that this is a different version of the Yankees. They're not gonna be the quote unquote Bronx Bombers there. They're gonna have to do it pitching. And again, as Yankee fans, we're not really used to that as much there. It's usually they're just bludgeon teams with the offense there. Garrett Cole's usually one starter, and the other starters are kind of and then you kind of just hope to win games through the offense. Well, now things are a little bit different where, the Yankees have thrown out a very good, high-quality starter, and in 3 of those, maybe 4 of those 5 spots there, almost elite type of starting pitching there, and just trying to scratch enough runs across there and just use their, bullpen, which has been very good overall technically, even though, some ups and downs, but overall, the bullpen strength there, just to secure a smaller win. So, back in the day, maybe it was like a 10-3 Yankee win or a 10-8 Yankee win. Now you're looking at maybe 5-4 Yankee wins or 2-0 Yankee wins. I mean, that's the way it's going to have to be until Aaron Judge comes back. And then hopefully with him and with some of the additions of some of the other guys, maybe the offense could finally click in there. So you're holding on hopes a little bit too much there. But obviously, the important thing is getting Aaron Judge back, in his usual spot. But more of a sure bet to rejoin the Yankees soon. That would be Carlos Rendon. Had a start. That was Saturday, August 8th. Now, in case you didn't catch his line there, I have it for you. Not wow impressive there, but at least to see him throwing there, and at least afterwards reporting no effects. Again, he's been down for a while with the quote-unquote sore elbow, which we don't really know what that is. I think they were trying to limit his innings a little bit, but you never know. But anyway, the line there, 2 2/3 inning pitch. Did give up 3 runs on 3 hits, 2 walks and 2 strikeouts, and did throw 48 pitches. 29 of those 48 pitches were strikes there. And now the plan for him, according to Aaron Boone, is at least have 1 more start, and then after that start, he should be able to join the Yankee rotation. Now, remember what happened with Max Fried a couple of weeks ago? He was supposed to have 1 more start in AAA, but because they had the rain out and doubleheader with the Pittsburgh Pirates, they decided, well, let's just throw Fried in there in game 2 because he was lined up to throw anyway. So could something like that potentially happen with Carlos Rodon? Maybe. We're not too sure yet, but at least he'll probably have likely, unless there's any rain delays or anything crazy happens, they'll likely have 1 more start in AAA and then be able to join the Yankee rotation. And of course, the big mystery after that, well, if Carlos Rodon joins the Yankee rotation, who's the odd man out? And you got the 2 guys at the bottom there, of course, Ryan Weathers or Will Warren. One of those 2 will probably be sent to the bullpen. Now, which one would it be? Now, if you want to see, if I had to take a guess, right now I would say it's probably going to be Ryan Weathers. For a couple of reasons. First of all, you would already have 2 lefties in the rotation in Max Fried and Carlos Rodon. I mean, yeah, sure, lefties could be interesting, certain depends who you match up with, but that would give the Yankees 3 lefties as a starting 5. Usually don't see that too often there. Not that it makes a big deal. I mean, if someone's great, they're great. Who cares if they're righty or lefty there? But I think the main has to do with Ryan Weathers is his innings limit. So at least right now, as I say this of this moment there, he's thrown a career high 121 innings pitched there, and we're not even done with August, and we still have September there. So Ryan Weathers, so far he's held up. The thing about him with the Marlins is that he's always seemed to be a bit of an injury risk, and that was a good gamble by Cashman, and so far has paid off. I mean, he's had a really good season for the Yankees. Unfortunately for him, he gets like no run support. Maybe he's had 1 or 2 clunkers. I just think of that game against the Angels. That's when Mike Trout came in here. He came on fire there. He kind of got blasted in the first inning. But other than that, Ryan Weathers has actually been really good for the Yankees. He just gets like 0 run support. So So, he's had a lot of games where he's pitching to the 6th or 7th inning, throwing up zeros, or only giving up 1 run, and that's a game the Yankees end up losing there because the Yankees, as we're dealing right now with this Yankee offense, has been a no-show for him. So you don't really look at Ryan Weathers' win-loss record as much there, but he's been really good for the Yankees. But again, he has thrown now a career high in innings pitched there, so I don't know if they're going to keep using him as a starter there. So I think that makes him more likely to have to go to the bullpen, whereas Will Warren, something like that, is stretched out more to do this. Obviously, he made all the starts for the Yankees last season, like 30-plus starts there. Never went down on the IL. Seems pretty durable, and it's the same thing with him this season. I mean, he's been really pretty much pain-free, hasn't really missed much for starts. I know there was a brief time there the Yankees did use him out of the pen during that Pittsburgh series here at the Yankees, but that was more about a necessity situation. But other than that, Will Warren's been more durable. Now, maybe Weathers could be slightly better pitcher, more effective than Will Warren there, but I think Will Warren's more groomed for this, and he's actually thrown less innings. So at this point, Will Warren has only thrown 114 innings pitched there, so it's actually 7 less than Ryan Weathers. Again, I mentioned before, Will Warren much more stretched out. He pitched the entire last season as a starter. Weathers there, this is kind of a new nuance for him. I mean, he started a little past with the Marlins, but also in the past, he was also mainly used out of bullpen. So, this is kind of new territory for Weathers, so I don't think the Yankees are going to stretch him out that much. So, out of the two of them, I probably would see Weathers likely go to the bullpen. Again, that's if everything goes well and we don't have any surprise injuries with Schlittler or Cole or Max Fried right now, who all three of them are really throwing the ball great. Now, again, same thing, the win-loss record or the Yankees win-loss record doesn't reflect that because the offense has been really putrid. But Cole seemed like he really caught on fire there. Really probably thrown his best baseball since he's come back. So he came back strong there. See Cole struggle a little bit, but he seems on a little bit. Schlittler, for the most part, he seems dominant. Again, he had that hard luck loss against the Braves where he only gave up 1 run. Again, normal circumstances like that, you'd win the game. But, of course, the Yankee offense gave him no support behind him. And Max Fried so far, again, he's looked really good since he's come back, from his bone bruise on his elbow, which, again, I don't know still how that happened there. So the Yankees elite, have elite pitching at the top 3 spots there. When Rendon comes back, is Rendon up in their class a little bit, but not under that. But still, Rendon very good for the Yankees there, and they'll probably leave someone like Will Warren will be a number 5 starter, and then Weathers will go to the bullpen. And that could have been part of the reason why Cashman didn't really make any moves at the bullpen at the trade deadline. Supposedly, he was interviewed afterwards. He said, he did try to make some inquiries. He did try to make moves, but everybody wanted George Lombard Jr. Everybody wanted George Lombard Jr., and Cashman wasn't willing to let him go. Now, I'm not sure how much I believe that. I mean, you could have offered someone else other than George Lombard Jr., maybe to bring in a bullpen arm there. So I don't know. But maybe his whole idea is that, well, if I'm not going to have Weathers handy at some point there, Weathers could be my guy I could use in a late high leverage situation late in games. So he's a high 90s fastball, and as I said plenty of times here and on the audio podcast, you're only asking Weathers to come out for 1 inning, so he could come in, air it out there, and maybe put a little bit more in his pitches instead of throwing 96 to 97. Maybe get air it to like 99, 100 there because he's only throwing 1 inning there. So that could be your guy for late inning high leverage situations there. So Cashman might have had that in mind, and you also have Clark Schmidt floating around now. Clark Schmidt, I mean, right now he's playing catch a little bit right now, so I don't know if he'd be ramped up and ready. He's not like a fireball guy anyway, Clark Schmidt. But again, the Yankees have used him in the past as both a starter and as effective long reliever, or just come in and throw an inning. So that's a weapon as well. The Yankees are going to get down in the corner there. But again, you would just like this what we've been waiting for to Rendon to join this rotation. And really for the past 2 years, I mean, we've been dreaming of once they signed Max Fried, of having Fried and Garrett Cole. Now we didn't know what Schlittler was until we got him last season, but that's now a happy surprise. And now you got Schlittler, Cole, Rendon, Fried there. I mean, that was top 4. I mean, that's elite pitching. So for all the Yankees' problems offensively, at least that's the pitching, that's going to be the strength of the Yankees. At least that's what gives you a reason of hope going, into September, into the playoffs. It's had pitching like that. And I've been saying it plenty of times. Like, the Yankees haven't had pitching like that. You got to go back 25 years, of starting 4 like that. I mean, for the past couple of years, we know how it's been as Yankees fans. You have Garrett Cole. He's kind of your sure bet. After that, Yankees starting pitching, especially in the postseason, has not been good at all. I mean, it really hasn't been good. Maybe the last time was decent when you had at least Tanaka and Severino back in 2017 to go with Cole there. But, this is much better than that. And this is a starting rotation that goes back to like the late 90s Yankees when you had like Andy Pettit and David Cone and El Duque and David Wells and Roger Clemens and Mike Mussina. I mean, that's, when the Yankees obviously in the heyday winning championships, that's the starting rotation that this Yankees have now with this starting 4. And if they can just score a little bit more with the offense there, if you take that starting, even Schlittler, Cole, and Fried. I mean, no team is going to want to face that in the playoffs there. So, Yankees have to do some due diligence. Of course, you see, the 5.5 back in the American League East. I mean, I still think it's doable. I mean, it's only, you still have all of August and you have all of September, and the Yankees play the Tampa Bay Rays 4 games at the stadium there. So, again, there is an opportunity if the Yankees don't just completely fall off the wagon to have at least a shot at the AL East. And that's what you really want to do. If we could get the AL East, you go line up those guys where, you got Cam Schlittler game 1, Fried game 2, or Cole game 3. I mean, no one's going to have to face that, and you could pretty much buzz your way through to the through the postseason until you get to the World Series there. But again, if the Yankees are kind of a wild card team, then maybe you got to start Schlittler earlier, and then once things come around, maybe your game 1 starter of another round is Carlos Rendon, who's good, but you'd rather have like Cole or Schlittler starting that game run, not someone like Rendon there. But obviously, more importantly, Rendon joining at least the rotation there, going to keep this team afloat because again, the offense right now is teetering. At the trade deadline, a lot of Yankee fans wanted Cashman to do something at the catching position, whether it's get another starting catcher like a Liam Hicks, for example, at least a more competent backup catcher. But Cashman did neither of that. But the Yankees have made a move there, so now it doesn't really make you wow and satisfy and forgive that nothing happened at the trade deadline. But nevertheless, worth mentioning. It's going to signing a minor league deal to Mitch Garver, formerly of the Seattle Mariners. So they basically released him last week. Cashman picked him up, gave him a minor league deal, and he will report to AAA, and he'll be there in the mix with J.C. Escara there. So I don't know if this is a guy that would come up, and you're not really wowed by his numbers. Of course, again, he was cut by Seattle, so he kind of tells you all you need to know about the guy. Plus, he's 35 years old. But his numbers before he was released by Seattle, batting 174, so, kind of fits in with the other Yankee catchers. 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, had 22 hits, and that was in 50 games. But of course, he's a right-handed bat. And of course, the Yankees, going with Ali Sanchez as the backup there. And, of the two of them, who's better, who's worse, I don't know. Could Mitch get a call up at some point, potentially there? So, I don't think this solves the problem but at least it gives the Yankees, some option. Now, the backstory with him, I guess he was teammates with Tanner Swanson, who's the current Yankees director of catching. He has a relationship with Garvin, so I guess the two of them kind of know each other there, so maybe that's what helped open the door. That goes back to their days playing for the Minnesota Twins there. So I don't think it makes a big difference anyway. I mean, maybe they'll call him up and give him a shot in September there. I mean, again, this is not a guy that's going to carry the team or do something big on the field there. It's just more about Sanchez there. If he makes stupid throws like that throw he made in Chicago there, that cost the Yankees that game there, maybe if he does a couple more of those, maybe they'll make a switch and give Garver a look there. But again, at 35 years old, a backup catcher there. Don't expect much for the guy there. But again, it at least gives Cashman and the Yankees an option. Well, you might have heard the conspiracy theory. I mean, it's a little bit older at this point that there's something going around that possibly Babe Ruth didn't exist, almost like maybe the moon landing, like the moon landing happened. Well, some players have been going around. You might be seeing the buzz that some of the people are putting out there that maybe Babe Ruth didn't exist just because there's not a ton of footage of him, and he was such a great player and is bigger than larger than life type of guy there. Now, this whole thing's kind of crazy. Now, it got sparked initially by the Cubs' young, exciting player. That's Pete Crow Armstrong. Obviously, so he gets a lot of attention. Now, he's not exactly the one who started this. What happened was he actually went on a podcast and he said he likes the theory. Not that he agrees with it or he's the one that came up with it. He just said he likes the theory, he finds it funny there. So, kind of like the game of telephone. From there, it kind of carried on to then people saying that Pete Crow Armstrong said Babe Ruth didn't exist. That's not what happened. He just said he just likes the theory there. So, again, the whole thing got overblown. But it was kind of funny, and a little bit old news. But again, figure we'll address it. Now, according to him, where he got the idea from, this has to do with another player. That was another podcast. His name was Taylor Saucedo, at that time was a pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. He went on a podcast back in 2024, and he's the one who made the original claim that probably Babe Ruth didn't exist because, why there's no footage of him? I know he played in the 20s and 30s, but, in 20s and 30s, we have a lot of movies, and we have, a lot of movies and footage and stuff like that. Why isn't there significantly much more footage of Babe Ruth? So that was his theory there. He probably knows it's silly, but, it is kind of interesting. It's kind of funny there because, we always see Babe Ruth as this mythological figure, all the home runs and eating hot dogs and maybe being half buzzed when he's playing and doing all these crazy things and the cold shot and all that stuff there. So that's all kind of the part of the fun. But, of course, Babe Ruth existed. He's real. Okay, in-game baseball video technology back then probably wasn't as tip-top shape, so you're not going to have a ton of footage of him, but we have plenty of footage of him playing and taking batting practice. There's tons of pictures of him. There's tons of press of him and being in the newspapers. I mean, you couldn't fake all those Boston and New York newspapers from way back in the day there. And, of course, we saw Babe Ruth come, unfortunately, late in his life when he was near the end there, making that final appearance at Yankee Stadium, and obviously saw, he was sick at that point there. So we have plenty of footage. There's plenty of notoriety that Babe Ruth did exist. if you want to question something, I would question Bigfoot.